Welcome. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm just going to let people come in as they enter. And as we start here, I'll just explain my screen here. So this is our first episode, we'll call it like that, of our Engage Learning magazine theme. So we have the magazine that's out, and the topic that we're discussing today is cybersecurity, since that's the theme that we introduced in the fall issue of the magazine. So welcome to this live Zoom event, and we're going to be having a very informal conversation with a few of our authors from the magazine. And before we get started, so my name is Nicole, and I am with École, branchée and with Engage Learning. So welcome, thanks for being here. I just have a few slides to share with you, and then we'll just jump right in. So for those who might not be as familiar with Engage Learning, it is the English version of our magazine from École branchée. And École branchée, we are an educational media outlet for teaching in the digital age. We've been around since 1996. We are nonprofit, and for those who might be familiar with École branchée has all of the professional development resources, magazine information, training sessions, but and pedagogical guides. And in English, we have our English magazine. Without further ado, I'm going to show you a sneak peek. I have a copy here, if you can see on my screen here. It's sort of funny because I don't see myself anymore, but I trust that you see what I'm showing you. So on my screen here, I have a few screen captures of the magazine itself. So inside, we're talking about cybersecurity. It was a theme that people had been asking of us for a bit. Everything with the challenges of Bill 25 on protection of personal data, personal information in Quebec was something that was a bit of a hot topic as well. So we were very pleased to have an article that talked about that. We have articles that are great for teachers, for school principals. We have different tips and advice on how you can broach the subject with students directly. You have different perspectives. So if you haven't read it yet, I do strongly recommend it. I'll take a quick second in a minute just to, I'll stop the screen share and I'll show you inside the magazine. I have a big, I have a lot of coup de cœurs. I have a lot of articles that I quite enjoyed. One that we'll be talking about in particular today with Caroline Dupuis and Julian Taylor from English Montreal School Board, of course. I also quite liked the one here that I'm showing you for the 5 questions that we asked Terry Cutler, an ethical hacker. It was quite interesting, and I do strongly recommend that one. So what I'll do is I'll just stop my screen just for a quick second, just to show you a bit inside the magazine. This is the print copy. And for those who might not be overly familiar with École branchée and Engage Learning, when you have a subscription, you get both. Like if you have a digital subscription, whether you're from an English school board or you're with a Francophone school board, if your school board or school or establishment is subscribed, I'm just going to let someone in here, is subscribed to the English copy or to the French copy, the digital version, you have both. So if you're connected, you go in and you can lire en français or read in English. It's not a carbon copy. Like it's not like I have both here, français, English. So some of the articles will actually translate and adapt to the other language. And other content, some other articles are actually written exclusively in French or in English. So if you're bilingual, the advantage is that you can read both, and then you can see in the table of content what's different, what's the same. And even those that we adapt, some resources we'll reference are different because if they're not available in French and or English, we'll make sure to adapt that. So you have access to both. And I strongly recommend if you're bilingual to take a quick peek at both. So I'm just going to jump back to my screen share here for a quick sec, just to get to the heart of the matter. So today I have the utmost pleasure of having a virtual conversation with a couple of guests that we are very, very thankful that you accepted the invitation. We have Caroline Dupuis, who's education consultant with RÉCIT Local at English Montreal School Board, and her colleague Julian Taylor, librarian, also at English Montreal School Board. And they co-authored an article that was featured in the magazine. It's the very first article, if I remember correctly, in the English magazine. And the title is Empowering Students as Safe and Responsible Digital Citizens. I love the title. I'm going to stop my screen share so I can see Caroline and Julian more properly. And I'm going to invite our guest, other participants who are here today, as we're chatting. If you have questions or you have comments or for Caroline and or Julian or myself, please feel free to ask it in the chat or raise your hand. We're not a huge group, so we can definitely address your questions and comments. So to get the ball rolling, I would like to ask Caroline and Julian, what motivated you guys to write this article together? And how did you come up with this particular angle? Like what made you want to write this particular article? I'm not sure who wants to start, but I will pass it along to you too.
I'll go. Well, both Julian and I have been working in terms of digital citizenship and cybersecurity specifically for several years. We've been working on this topic and we've been sharing this dossier at EMSB for at least a decade. So we've been giving teachers workshops and different tips and tricks, and we've seen teachers also create projects for the classroom in which they were integrating little elements for cybersecurity. And usually when we talk about cybersecurity, it's not necessarily the most exciting topic. It's a bit dry, and teachers are like, oh, I have to do that too. But what we're trying to do is to not make it a topic on its own. It's basically embedded in anything they do online. So rather than focusing solely on cybersecurity or cyber safety, we invite them to address various elements as they go on. For example, while they're using their Google Classroom, we have teachers remind students how to communicate properly together on the stream as they're commenting or sharing information. So that's one of the reason why we wanted to write the article, was just to share what has been happening at EMSB mostly. Julian?
Sure. And if I can, I guess, kind of add on to that, one of the things too that was going to say that motivates to write this article also is that in the last, I guess, about a year and a half, you've been probably hearing a lot about this new thing called AI that's not really new, but that has gotten a lot more attention because a lot of the increases of what it's capable of, and also how accessible it is. And a lot of these issues of digital safety or empowering people to be able to use tools in their education and in their lives, well, it's like, oh wait, remember there's also those other things there. They still apply even to this new tool. So we thought that's another good reason to kind of review again and say what are the things that have been done, so that we can try to give people, especially those who might be a little bit nervous about trying things. It's like, okay, well, here are some of the things to keep in mind, and here are some of the things that will actually help you and your students. So that, I think, is probably another reason why we want to do this now, is to kind of also take advantage of that increased excitement towards a new technological tool, or I should say a suite of tools, obviously.
Fantastic. No, that's great. I'm really happy that you took that perspective and that you went down that route. I'm curious
I thought
to
you were going to
see,
say rabbit hole there, but
the rabbit hole route. I can see a bit of both. So for the last 10 years or so, more or less, you've been working on the cybersecurity and the challenges and so forth. Any particular challenges that you've encountered and what you've done to address them in terms of maybe pushback from either staff or students or administrative things or IT requirements, any challenges that you've encountered?
Well, obviously, yes, there are challenges, and one of the most recent one is the new provisions of Law 25 that require that we are a little bit more strict and that we change our mindset. Sorry, I don't know what I was trying to say there. That we change, or I think I was trying to say shift our mindset towards being a little bit more rigorous in our process as we're using different apps online and different tools. In the past, teachers have been encouraged to use various tools, but there was not always the provisions that are like in Law 25, for example, it is better if or recommended that the data of the student remained in Quebec or in Canada. So that definitely was a challenge to get them to look at what they were using, trying to see, okay, so pedagogically, is there really a benefit to using that tool versus that other tool? If, for example, one is locates their data in the States and one that locates their data in Canada. So that's something that we've had to address with our teachers, and habits change not very easily. So that's something that we've been discussing at length with our teachers. And that's actually one of the article, right, in the magazine that addresses Law 25. So that's something that we have, that is at the forefront that we have to tackle.
And I would say that in the last school year, the number of times that, at least for myself, I'm sure it's a lot with Caroline, I've had to add in this Law 25 issue that people are like, what? Why would I have to do that? Just like, they don't know. And it's very limiting then if they don't know what the parameters are, and sometimes it might be the afterwards of an administrator or something like that being unhappy with some decisions that have been made by staff who thought this was a great idea and it looked perfectly fine because they just didn't realize. And I'm actually very happy that in this issue there is basically an article on that, because I think that is going to be extremely beneficial to a lot of people who very possibly have still not even heard about this, and it will really help them, I think. One of the things I was also going to say is things are more restrictive now in terms of like where data is being housed and the amount of data that we're sharing with these other organizations, and there's a few reasons for that, but I find actually in some cases, for some cases, it's actually getting easier and easier as these online sites or these platforms are being still not super transparent sometimes, but more so in the information they give on their site to help people make the information. Whereas 10 years ago, a lot of times it was extremely vague, or it wasn't important for them to put that on. So it's that I'm also very happy to see that is becoming more transparent. And I think also in the last few months, there's been a growing thing about platforms now saying like, oh, by the way, unless you opt out, we're going to take all your content and we're going to give that to a model generator for AI. Oh, you didn't know that? Oh, that was in that and other related stuff. It's like, okay, can we have that a little bit more black and white? What am I as an individual giving up? What am I doing that I don't even realize? And especially like we have to be there to try to model proper behavior for our students, because that's a very good way of learning, obviously, is modeling and the students seeing it, and also make sure that we don't inadvertently agree to more things for our students than we should. So I think I may have wandered around a little bit in there, but I'm sorry, go ahead, Caroline.
No problem. I was just going to add that one of the things that teachers are the most concerned about in elementary and high school is often that division between home and school, and the fact that they're using the kids are using online platforms to communicate. So there's there's no clear division. So whatever is drama is going on online often spills over into the classroom, and so that's one of the big challenge that teachers have to address. So we focus a lot on trying to develop students' empathy as a means to counter cyberbullying, and also different means that they can use to protect themselves and recognize when is it drama or is it cyberbullying, because those are different things, right? Because we can have an argument with someone. If it's respectful, it's not necessarily cyberbullying. So making those differences are also very important, because there was a time there where it seemed that some of the students were immediately connecting to being uncomfortable, to cyberbullying, when in fact it was more argument style. So we've had conversation with our teachers and their students about the difference between drama and cyberbullying, and what to do if it was in fact cyberbullying, because that has to be addressed.
I'm really glad you brought that up, Caroline, because cyberbullying is something, it's a concern that I think all schools and all school boards are experiencing right now, unfortunately, but it is the case. And that is something that I've seen addressed in the other articles as well. So there are strategies for like how to address cyberbullying, cyber crimes, and so forth. So it's it's a reality that I don't think any of us have lived through when we were maybe students, but today it's something unfortunately that we're seeing every single day in the classroom. So teachers definitely have to know how to react to that and how to be guided and how to model our students. So I'm glad you brought that up, Caroline. Really, really strong point. So for those of you who might not have read the article yet, if I can allow a little sneak peek here, what you mentioned also, Caroline, in reference to cyberbullying, there was a part here where you mentioned that the more we put out, and you both mentioned, sorry, Julian and Caroline, the more we put out there, the higher the chances of us being victims of fraud, identity theft, and cyberbullying. Therefore, how do we strike a balance? So that's exactly what you were talking about, Caroline, and it's so important. And with the privacy and information sharing, there's also a point here where it's important to apply critical thinking and share only the minimum amount of information necessary. And I think that goes along with what you were saying, Julian. There's a cost. There's always a cost to what we're sharing, the data that we're putting out there. What is that hidden cost that we didn't read about? And those are conversations that we need to have with teachers, with school principals, and also with our students and with their families. There's a big education to be done there. And I really loved how your article goes forward to really sharing ideas like core cyber safety ideas for the classroom. It's very concrete, it's tangible advice and things that schools can do. So I love the angle that you took to do that. And can you maybe share a bit more about maybe at your school board, how do you see maybe the role of teachers sort of evolving in guiding students to be maybe more safe and responsible online? Like it's a lot more, there's a lot more involved today than there was like 5-10 years ago. So how do you see that role evolving?
Well,
I think I'll let Caroline answer this one. Sorry.
I was going anyways. As teachers are integrating more and more technology, obviously there are concerns that they have to keep in things that they have to keep in mind to address with the students. You know, the same as we wouldn't send students in a science lab and say, go ahead and use the beakers and the fire and whatnot. We want to give them instruction. It's a little bit the same thing when we go online, right? It might not look as dangerous from a first glance, but sometimes the impact can become very big impacts on the long term. So what we encourage our teachers to do is that anytime they go online, that they address those elements. And at times what some of our teachers have done is, for example, within language arts or français langue seconde, they have looked at how can we inform ourselves, but also use the communication competency in order to develop a project. So they have created PSAs, either videos or infographics that describe on what you can do about cybersecurity threats, like what is phishing? It's not the one with the lion and the fish at the end that you go for fun in the summer. And how can that affect you? How do I protect my identity to prevent fraud or identity theft and things like that? So that's one thing that has been done. Another thing with the little ones is that we make it a little bit more artistic, maybe, like drawing your footprint and which games do you play online and who do you talk to? And then we duplicate the footprints, and the more footprints, then it gives them a visual representation of how much they have shared and how large the already their footprint can be, and how much space that this is taking, virtual space, obviously, online. So giving them that physical element helps them make it a bit more concrete. Because when we talk about virtual with the little ones, they don't always make that link because it kind of feel like it's a bit like talking about the cloud. It's not concrete, so we're trying to make that a bit more concrete.
Yeah, they don't have the life experience and seen these things develop the way we as adults have seen to a certain extent. So it's kind of they don't have enough reference points to make those connections. Yeah. And actually, one of the things we also used to do in a lot of our things was, I mean, now we have great tools like, for instance, Google Classroom, which is a controlled environment where a teacher can actually use those things, even in like some of the other perhaps places where internet connection is not as reliable. Even in larger school boards, sometimes it disappears. But one of the things we used to do quite a bit also was, using, post-its, large post-its on the walls, and pretending that this is like, oh, well, you've created your blog, or you've put a post talking about your great summer vacation, something like that, and then encouraging the students to write using pencils on the wall, as not on the wall, let me apologize, on the large post-it that is on the wall, as if they're on the internet, and they're adding their comments to that discussion, and then pausing and being able to talk with the class afterwards about it. For very little kids, it's a good way to like kind of like take it to that next level. And of course, you do have a safe confined environment like a Google Classroom, or on for instance in Teams. Then you can take the next step further as well, where now it's even online, but it's an opportunity there to model it and to help them start developing the reflexes before they're doing it on the World Wide Web that is open to everybody.
I love that you mentioned that you went down that direction, because it is true. Making it more secure, more confined, it definitely allows for more growth and flexibility. Now, I'm just looking at the time, and I'm wondering, from our audience, our participants, do you guys have any questions for Caroline and Julian, things that you're curious to know about what they do at EMSB, about the article in particular, just something that you'd like to ask while we're all here together? Feel free. You can open up your mics if you want to join in the conversation and put in your 2 cents, or if you want to tell us what you're doing for cybersecurity in your establishments, feel free.
Sure, if I may break the ice, as we say. I'm here because I know quite a fair deal about cybersecurity as well, but of course, I'm always open to hear what colleagues are doing across other school boards as well. I just wanted to comment too on the point that Caroline mentioned about the cyberbullying and online, and being able to differentiate between the conflict and bullying. I was surprised to learn too that in my daughter's back to school parents meeting at the beginning of the year, that they also addressed this issue, but not for an online environment, but for offline as well, because there's that very silver gray area, if you will, to differentiate between the two. And I think it's important to know the difference between one that is a repetitive behavior, which is bullying, and then after that the conflict, which of course the younger the children, they'll easily to declare like, oh, this is bullying, but as adults, we're very aware of the differences between the two. And another comment too is when Julian was mentioning about these I believe it was you were mentioning about scams and other things as well. It's so easy nowadays to fall victim to a potential scam, and as you mentioned as well with artificial intelligence, it just makes it even easier to fall victim to these things that we believe are so, very real. A real world example is, for example, a victim receiving a phone call, believing that a close relative is in distress and to send money immediately. The voice is an exact replica of the person. And so, your mom and dad receives a phone call that their child is in distress. And like I said, the voice is so real that you're just prone by nature to act on it. And so these technologies will only advance. And unfortunately, unless we educate ourselves and we're up to speed about all of these wrongdoings that are happening around us, it's very important to stay vigilant and to stay educated about these notorious and really life-changing events that could give us trouble down the road. So, but I really appreciate these conversations that we're having, and I'm happy to be among you today. Thank you.
I was actually going to throw one thing in there too. Is, I mean, the technology is evolving. Obviously, a lot of good is going to come out of it. There are always bad actors. That's a part of our human condition, that there are going to be people who are going to be bad actors. And as this technology is evolving, even though it's not perfect, when you put somebody into a stressful situation like my child or my brother or sister or something like that is in distress, our brains are not functioning 100%. We go immediate there's an issue here, and so it's harder to think clearly. You're more likely to fall victim to something like that because suddenly there's the emotion is influencing your brain. So yeah.
Some of the issues that we're seeing now are similar to issues we were seeing in the past. I remember when Julian used to give a Wikipedia workshop. It was called Great Evil or Just Misunderstood. It's a bit the same that we're going through with AI now. It's just the impact of using AI, because it's interactive and because you have to actually put some of yourself in it and you're creating accounts and whatnot, that makes it very different, right? In terms of generative AI. With Wikipedia, it was more like encyclopedia. Is it reliable? Can I use this? Who wrote in there? And those were all things that we needed to make sure to also keep ourselves safe, right? Because if the information is not reliable, you need to know how to figure that out. So that's there are recurring things that we have to keep in mind and reinvest and also adjust according to the new technologies that are coming.
And in the future, it's gonna be the same thing. And just to give an example of what Caroline just said, we were actually part of a meeting at some point in the last year. I won't give any kind of details, where people were talking about their issues, and one person stating their opinion on AI, which I was actually happy to see was a cautiously optimistic view. I actually kind of worked well. And I said, I would like to point out to everyone in the room that if you take what she just said, just remove the word AI, put it in Wikipedia, this is the exact same thing that would have been said 10 years ago. And in 10 years, there's going to be another thing. And so a lot of times it's not a question of like, well, how do you prevent that? It's like, well, I think a big part of it here is us, the humans, and trying to help make sure that the next generation of humans is hopefully even better equipped to make rational decisions. As well, that was part of our title, empowering students, because these things can really make a difference. And I spend a certain amount of my time working with consultants who help students with learning disabilities, as that's Caroline as well. And there's so many tools in here now that, I'm thinking back to when I was in high school. This is like, well, that's the best we can do for those students over there. Good luck. Now we can help them. We can empower them to actually be able to move forward.
Those are some very, very strong points. I'm really glad to see this conversation going the way it's gone. I can't believe it's actually already come to the half-hour mark. Did anyone else have any comments or questions we can keep this going if you want a few more minutes, but if you have any questions or comments, that would be great. That is what you said, Julian, is probably a great conclusion, because as you mentioned, if you were to take out the words AI and replace it by Wikipedia, we could even go further back and, when the horse and carriage got replaced by the car, and we could go forward and talk about the calculator. There's always been an evolving in technology, evolution in technology, and it's how to help our students and our teachers and everyone be better equipped to handle it and go forward and grow with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring your attention to two things in the magazine align with what James had brought up too. There's an amazing article in here that's preventing cybercrime one course at a time. And they have really good examples of different emails and different conversations of scams and different things like that that you can approach for like strategies for hacking passwords and things like that might be great conversations to have with students. And also the last thing I wanted to show you is this poster in the middle here. This is actually, this was designed by a school district actually out of New Brunswick. And they have like a digital citizenship program. And I love their slogan where it says that digital citizenship or cybersecurity is everyone's business. So it's not a matter of like putting it in a box and, oh, that's IT's department. No, it's everyone's business. And we can all, each and every single one of us can play a role in helping our students become more safe and responsible digital citizens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just share my screen for one quick second here, just to share my contact information if ever you want to keep this conversation going. And before I forget, when the recording is done, it will be under Engage Learning under our events and training section. You'll see like a video replay section. And here is my contact information, my email. I have a bit.ly and a QR code if you want to schedule an appointment with me and continue this conversation. I'd also like to thank very, very sincerely Julian and Caroline for agreeing to be our very first guest in this web series for virtual conversations that we'll be having during the rest of the school year. Really, really appreciate it and really loved your article. And if I could leave with a final comment to everyone here that's joined us, please feel free to submit your ideas. If you want to write for the magazine, we'd love to have more exclusive content in English. So by all means, if you have any ideas of what you're doing in terms of cybersecurity, other themes, whether it's around education with technology, just send me a quick email. We'd love to hear from you and to encourage to kind of spread the light on what's happening in our Anglophone communities here in Quebec and elsewhere. Any final comments or questions for either Caroline or Julian or myself before we sign off?
Other than thank you so much? No, not really.
Thank you for sharing your time and knowledge with us today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. And thank you, Fanny, for your comment. Well appreciated. And we hope you enjoy the magazine, the issue on cybersecurity. And thank you, Lisette. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful week. Take care.